if indeed there is a low bar to get into the New York Times these days, meaning reporters, I thought that there was a high bar to get into the New York Times. I thought the paper of record would have, standards. I was disabused of that this morning. I've been disabused of that more than one time. But if indeed it's a low bar to get into the New York Times, if there's anybody that can go lower than that bar, it is indeed the Daily Beast. And they prove it again today with outright red bait xenophobic trash attacking one Miss Tulsi Gabbard. One of my subscribers sent me an article, and he makes the point, he says, take a look at this article. I don't remember the heading that he put on this, but he said, take a look at this article. And within the first few femtoseconds, just the length of time it took light waves to bounce off the computer screen, hit my eyeballs, travel to my brain, and register. That's how fast it was, where this, like the red baiting, the xenophobia just pours out of the article. The authors should be ashamed of this. And I'm saying authors because there are two authors associated with this particular story. And I got to be honest, I have no clue what the point of the story. None. Other than red baiting. It's over the top and it's gross. The author or the article goes into this notion of Tulsi Gabbard is being supported by America's Russophiles. Calls her a Putin apologist right off the bat. In fact, let's take a look at the article for a moment. The article is astonishing. And I'm going to show you something at the end that makes it that much worse. Tulsi Gabbard's campaign is being boosted by Putin apologists. Right off the bat. Putin apologists. He's talking about Americans, by the way. Putin apologists. People who have a different perspective of Russia than the foreign policy that the United States has taken over the course of the few years. They're called Putin apologists. Let's see what he's talking about, and let's see what this even means. What does that mean, boosted by Putin apologists? What does that mean? What does that mean? The wild part about this is, right here, her financial support from prominent pro-Russian voices in the United States is a small portion of the total she raised. But you just told people in the title she's being boosted by Putin apologists. Let's keep going. Hawaii's Tulsi Gabbard campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination is being underwritten by some of the nation's leading Russophiles. Isn't that amazing? Not wanting war. Like taking a position of saying, I don't want the United States using our military to smash and destroy another nation. Tulsi Gabbard's main point, if anyone cares to listen to her, is very basic. 90% of the nuclear weapons are held between the United States and Russia. We are 2 minutes to midnight. We are at the point where we need to have communication between these two countries. And there needs to be some level of cooperation between these two countries that brings down tensions. And how we are engaging right now is extraordinarily dangerous. Do you know there were situations where there were mistakes where we almost fired off missiles from Okinawa? Isn't that amazing? That's on China's doorstep, by the way. And the whole point of that particular base was a pivot to China. That pivot to China is taking place with Democrats and Republicans. Meaning what Donald Trump is doing here, they may bitch and complain, but the Democrats had their own strategy of dealing with China. It's astonishing. Joe Biden coming out saying, there's nothing wrong with China is suspicious, seeing as his party has a completely different tact. This entire article, I'm putting it at the bottom, is essentially a few people who have a foreign policy that is atypical of the Democratic Party, meaning they don't hate Russia and they don't browbeat and saber rattle against Russia, and it's taken a foreign policy stance that says we need to bring tensions down around the world, not necessarily escalate them. People who are supporting her. That's the article. Here are the people that are supporting her with this particular foreign policy, and there's several of these people, like Stephen Cohen, who are friendly towards Russia. That's the article. Like, there's no information in this article other than there's certain people that have a relationship that are anti-war that support Tulsi Gabbard. With the connotation being that there's something dicey here. There's something strange here. I mean, right in the title, she called them Putin apologists. Now, unless you're arguing to me that being a Putin apologist is a good thing, which in this country it usually is not, then right off the point, there's a context to the rest of the article. It's astonishing. Donors to her campaign in the first quarter of the year included Stephen F. Cohen. Now, they acknowledge this is like little to nothing, and yet they still take the time to write an entire article about people who donated to her campaign that are friendly with, or at the very least don't want us hostile towards Russia. Also, the authors make another mistake that a lot of people make, that just because I don't want my country smashing and blowing the shit out of something doesn't necessarily mean I support the government of that country. I don't know how many times one has to say it. I suppose it's a good attack point where you can just make that up. As long as there's nobody there opposing you that smashes that, then you can get that out in the media or publish that. But ultimately, me saying I want relations or friendly relations with Russia doesn't make me a Putin apologist at all. I haven't said anything about Putin in that particular conversation. My point, her point, I don't have to like Maduro's government to not want the United States to smash to bits. I don't have to like the Ayatollah's government to have, to not want the United States to smash to bits. I don't have to like Saddam Hussein's government to not want the United States to smash to bits. And you move on around the rest of the world. It's just about what we do. It's about what we do. Not necessarily the governments that we're talking about smashing. It's an easy, convenient sleight of hand to move that when you're having a conversation about that, because the fact of the matter is that matters greatly. It matters greatly. Here's the thing. If you know, the Daily Beast was huge Hillary supporters. Loved Hillary to no end. Hillary. Attacked Bernie Sanders relentlessly for even being in the race. Had the temerity to run against Hillary Clinton, who it was her chance. This is an astonishing point of view for these authors to take, considering who this magazine was supporting. Just to put this in context, because context matters greatly, meaning if you're slapping me with something, if you've done the same thing, you look like a hypocrite, and it looks like you're being somewhat selective in your outrage here. At one point, they said all of her support was from the BJP, or, the BJP was running her campaign. Now it's the Russians. Just having an anti-war platform. You understand that if you're a person who's for less war, and there's a candidate in the race that is also for less war, you will likely flock to that candidate and support that candidate. If there is a person who has friendly relations with Russia or believes that the United States should be friendly with Russia, and there's a person in the race that's anti-war, they're going to support that person. And down the list. Like, this is the folly of mainstream media and a lot of this stuff, and not assigning any level of autonomy to the individuals involved in the process. If you were Russian and you were part of the Internet Research Agency, and as part of the Internet Research Agency, you were a clickbait farm, and your goal was to maximize the number of clicks that you got, and there was an election in the United States. Between the two candidates, Hillary Clinton looks like she was going to start a war, whereas Donald Trump looks like he wanted to be more conciliatory. Do you need Vladimir Putin to tell you that you may want to do a little bit more towards political coverage, which you're going to do anyway because it's an election and you're trying to get clicks, and clicks go up during elections when you're talking about those elections? Would it shock you if somebody says, in that sense, is more towards Trump because they think he's not going to start a war? It wouldn't shock me at all. You can assign autonomy to people. Everything is not directed by Vladimir Putin, but in their heads it is. Take a look at this. This is WikiLeaks. And I know Daily Beast hates WikiLeaks, which is why I'm using them. Let's take a look at this. Podesta leaks. Send our love to Chelsea, Mark, and Grandpa. Oh, that's so beautiful. Can't wait to meet Charlotte. Oh, this is going to Clinton. All right, so Clinton, in this email, Let's see. All right, here we are. Let's see. ISO pass all the middle of operators before we need to use that. All right, right here. So this line, this is a awesome line. Awesome line. This entire effort should be done with low profile, avoiding the massive traditional military. All right. Armed with proper equipment and working with U.S. advisors, the Peshmerga can attack the ISIL with coordinated assault supported from the air. The effort will come as a surprise to ISIL, whose leaders will believe we will always stop with targeted bombing and weaken them in both Iraq and inside Syria. At the same time, we should return to the plans to provide the FSA with some group to moderate force with equipment that would allow them to deal with the weakened ISIL and step up cooperation with the Syrian regime. The entire effort should be done with a low profile, avoiding massive traditional military operations that are temporary solutions. While the military-paramilitary operation is moving forward, we should use our diplomatic and more traditional intelligence assets to bring pressure to the governments of Qatar and Saudi Arabia, which are providing clandestine financial and logistical support to ISIL and other radical Sunni groups in the region. Think about what she just said. Hillary Clinton. She would know this stuff. She was Secretary of State. She's saying the Saudis and Qatar are helping terrorists in that region of the world. These guys are our allies. Our allies are supporting terrorism throughout that region of the world, including ISIS. That's an astonishing statement. Made even more astonishing since Hillary Clinton got millions of dollars from the Saudis. Meaning she's taken money, tens of millions of dollars, from people who she admit and own up to the fact are supporting terrorists in those regions of the globe. The Daily Beast, who is is bothered greatly by Tulsi Gabbard getting what they consider to be a small portion of the total that she's raised, but very concerned with these quote-unquote Putin apologists in her campaigns. Give me a break. Give me a break. Selective outrage. That's what this is. Give me a break. You moved from the BJP to saying she was motivated by racists to now quote-unquote Putin apologists. That's amazing. That's amazing that they wrote that article. And you know what's even worse? I mean, and not just amazing that they wrote the hypocrisy of this. Do you realize the people who are supporting Hillary Clinton, the people who Hillary Clinton said were supporting terrorists, just beheaded 37 people, some of which were kids, for the crime of quote-unquote terrorism. That terrorism is saying bad things online. Daily Beast had no issue with Hillary Clinton on this front. Most media ignores the stuff. But the notion that you're going to try to ding Tulsi Gabbard because anti-war people who just so happen to have some profile with in regards to Russia, you're going to ding her. There's something nefarious about that. There's something sinister about that. You guys are clowns. You're utter clowns. Who wrote this? Sam Stein in Lachian Markey. 4:44 in the morning. You guys got up this morning, this early, to publish this trash. It's amazing. Utterly amazing. Campaign season just started. This is probably only going to get worse, especially from sources like the Daily Beast. Just be aware. This was an aggravating read. It was an aggravating read because they were attacking Russia in this way, and it came across as extraordinarily xenophobic. If you want to say, and by the way, we have no right to be angry at this. Are you shitting me? The country that's knocked over one government after the next, even within our lifetime. Even within our lifetime. And you're bitching at the Russians for Facebook and Twitter ads. I'm sorry. I gotta be honest, I don't particularly care about this. So, I look at this and I see outright xenophobia. Now, however you want to say that xenophobia started with Vladimir Putin, doing something to the elections. What does that have to do with the rest of Russians? Putin apologizes. Like this article, just, there are people who are sympathizers with Russia and don't want a war, and this is sinister in their campaign. Like, this is utter nonsense. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. I'm going to end this because I have more stories, and I don't want you to sit here and bitch for like 10 minutes on this very particular point. But let's see who's here real quick. A case of Syria, it was about pipelines, Qatar. Yes, Matthew Wayne. All the mainstream outlets get their talking points in a push out to the masses around 4 a.m. You know, the wild part is, man, they hate her guts. Like, in this article, it's so over the top. And in the sad part, look at this. Look at this. This is what I wanted to show before. Right here. They ran this article on This Week on ABC. They ran this trashy article on network television. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? This article is utter trash. Complete trash. She got money from some people who were not maniacs on Russia. Oh my God, how sinister is that? How sinister is that? And look at the last part of this article, by the way. Last point. Right here. Though she has not courted their support, some prominent figures in the white nationalist community have flocked to Gabbard's direction. That has nothing even to do with the article. The entire article is a hit piece about Russia, and at the very end of the article, you just slid that shit in. And they ran this. These are the same people who were perfectly okay with Hillary Clinton taking all the money from the Saudis, while Clinton was also saying these guys are supporting terrorists. But, oh, Tulsi Gabbard, sinister, sinister. Nonsense. God, I can't wait till she gets on the debate stage. Can't wait. Uber excited. All right, I want to end this. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or Patreon. And yes, every dollar helps because YouTube is a treacherous terrain to operate. Thanks all. I'll see you momentarily. Bye-bye.